Hey everyone, it's Nikolai Pavlov and I'm back with some Power BI tips and tricks. Today we're going to look at how to clean financial data from Excel using Power Query. So if you work in finance or accounting departments, you might find this interesting. Alright, let's jump in and see what I'm talking about. So this is a pretty regular financial table that you might download from your accounting system or budgeting tool. Financial models also look like this, right, with dates going from left all the way to the right, and then with revenue categories and expenses going from top to bottom. So this kind of table is probably something that you see very often. In Power BI and in Power Query, we prefer our tables to be long and skinny, right? This is no good. This kind of table isn't really going to help us to do any sort of analysis. And so let's see what kind of transformations I can do with this table in Power Query to transform it and clean it up so you can use data for further analysis. First things first, I need to take this information into Power Query. To do that, we obviously click Data, from Table Range, select Range and click OK. First step is to remove total revenues, total expenses and net income, because these things you can calculate afterwards real easy. We don't really need them at this point in this table. So I click here and then I unselect these categories and then click OK. The second step is to fill down this column with either revenue or expenses. I can't have null values here. To do this, I go to Transform tab and then select Fill Down. And what it does is that it fills down rows either with revenue or expenses, like this. This is exactly the way I need it to be at this point. The next step is to transpose. Transpose is a very effective tool that is available in Power Query, which essentially changes the position of rows and columns. So rows become columns and columns become rows. If you imagine a situation where you have to carry 4 boxes in both of your hands horizontally, it's probably not very convenient, right? It will be a lot more effective to stack boxes on top of each other and carry them that way. So similar to that in Power Query, sometimes depending on situations and depending on the structure of the table you're working with, it's better to transpose. So this is what I'm going to do. I am going to go to under the Transform tab, find Transpose, and my table changes. The next thing I gotta do is I need to fill these up, these null values missing here. So I do the same thing I did previously. I find the fill button and then I click down. After I filled the names of month in the first column, I will move the table back. For that, I will transpose it again. My next step is that I need to combine these two rows here. February and actual and February and budget, because eventually I would want to combine these two rows together and then make them headers, but I can't make headers 2 rows at the same time, right? That's why I need to do the following step. I will unpivot the table again. Once I'm in this position, I will choose the first 2 columns and I will select Merge Columns. At this point, it doesn't matter which separator I choose because this is a temporary step. So I'm just going to pick comma. As you can see, the first 2 columns have been merged into one. And now when I transpose the table, I can see that these 2 rows have become one, and now I can use first rows as headers. There we go. This was a very important step. It's kind of hard to explain in words, but you'll see in a moment why I did exactly what I did. Now we can see that these 2 columns are exactly the way I want them to be, so I will select them and unpivot the other parts of the table, because I want these month names, February, March, etc., all stacked in one column. what I do is I select these two columns and then I will unpivot other columns except these two, because these two columns are already in the position I want them to be. So I choose unpivot other columns. Okay, this is already looking like the way I want it to be. Now what I do is I separate this column back. So month are in one column and then actual and budget on the other. To do this, I choose split columns under the transform tab and choose split columns by delimiter. Power Query is able to automatically detect which delimiter to use, and I just click OK. And now I have these two columns separated. This is exactly the way I want this table to look. And the last step left is to rename columns. So this one's going to be revenue expenses. This one here, obviously product type. This is going to be month. The fourth column is actual or budget. And this is just values, right? Change the type. Once I have the table ready, I can load it. Close and load too. And for the sake of comparison, I'm going to put this table right next to the original table so you can see the difference between the two tables. Existing worksheet right here. Okay. You can compare these two tables side by side and see what kind of transformations that we did. When working with tables in Power Query and in Power BI, we want our tables to be tall and skinny as opposed to wide and short. I know it sounds kind of bad, right? But when it comes to Power Query, we gotta discriminate in favor of this kind of tables. I hope you liked my video and learned how to clean up financial tables to be able to make further analysis in Power BI and in Power Query.